Moonbound, The Curse and the Gatekeeper's Redemption, delves into a realm where myth and reality intertwine, painting a riveting story of a reluctant gatekeeper, Sophia, and Xavier, a werewolf hunted by his own sinister fate. Set against the backdrop of an unseen magical world hiding in plain sight, their destinies become irrevocably linked, forging an alliance neither could have foreseen. Sophia, unknowingly key to lifting an ancient curse, leads an ordinary existence until enigmatic Xavier steps from the shadows. Driven by the need to break his lycanthropic curse, Xavier finds himself inexplicably drawn to Sophia, whose simple touch ignites a spark of hope within his tormented soul. As Sophia's powers awaken, so does a hidden war between supernatural factions, each vying for control over the Gatekeeper's allegiance. Enter Alexia, guardian of mystical treasures, and Ren, a mermaid with a vendetta, who complicate the duo's quest for a mermaid's scale and Xavier's salvation. Through tests of loyalty, Sophia's transformation from an unwitting pawn to a formidable force is paralleled by Xavier's struggle with his dual nature, as they confront not just their enemies but also the deepest fears within. This novel, Moonbound, The Curse and the Gatekeeper's Redemption, serves as a thrilling odyssey through the intricate tapestry of love, betrayal, and the indomitable spirit. It dares to question the boundaries of sacrifice and the strength derived from embracing one's true self, ultimately proving that even in the darkest of nights, love shines like the brightest moon, guiding souls towards redemption. Chapter 1. No. A string of obscenities that would make a sailor blush comes from my mouth as I slam the hatch of my SUV with enough force it shakes. It's been raining for a week in this godforsaken town. I gaze down at the pile of hanging clothes that now lies in a muddy puddle and I huff. Sarcasm drips from my voice. Rent a cozy cottage on Silver Lake for the summer, Sophie. I'm completely soaked, and my hair is stuck to my face with moisture. I push it out of the way as I continue to talk to myself. Get Caroline out of her house and find yourself some men, Sophie. A lot of good that plan did me. I managed to get my sister a man in record time. Now she's boinking him like a bunny, and I'm left whispering sweet nothings to my vibrator. I'd stamp my foot in the puddle if I didn't think it would only soak my dresses with more mud. I lift the sopping mess and pull open the screen door to my new home. I race through the entrance before the spring makes the door slam shut behind me. My cute rain boots squeak on the shiny wood floor as I walk quickly to the bathroom, and my clothing splats when I drop it in the tub. At least it's all machine washable. That's the thing about my new job as a wedding planner at the Winter Valley Country Club. Most of my outfits need to be able to withstand a splash of coffee or red wine. Even though my marriage crashed and burned, I still have a soft spot for weddings. There's something magical about the white dress that makes every woman look beautiful, and the way the groom gazes at his bride with so much love. My throat gets thick with my emotions and I blink to tamp down my tears. Water rushes as I rinse out a turquoise number that makes my butt look good. The dirt comes off easily, and I let out a sigh of relief. If only the pain of my divorce had gone down the drain that quickly. I married a man that didn't love me the way I loved him. I'd never considered myself a stupid girl too lovesick to see the truth, but apparently I was. I finish my task and transport the items to the washer to the left of the tub. I smile when I think about the fact that at least I got a hefty settlement. That put me in a position where I don't have to work. It's nice to choose an occupation because I want it instead of for financial reasons. I've made the most of the last 2 years of being a divorcee with no ties. While I nursed my broken heart, I had a lot of fun. I worked at a ski resort in Colorado, on a cruise ship off the southern coast, and tended bar at a swanky California vineyard. But when everything you own fits in your car at my age, you long for roots. I thought moving near my sister and niece might provide me with the comfort of family I crave. Living the free spirit life has made me lonely, and I yearn for a place where people know my name. I'm a 30-something living a 20-something's life, and it's time to settle down. A cabinet door clicks as I open it and search for laundry soap the owners of the cottage might have left behind. I discover a nearly empty jug and take it to the sink to add water. While my summer of frolicking with my sister to find love has been cut short, I am happy to be near Caroline and my niece Trixie. I have 2 new great-nephews to dote on, and most likely a wedding to plan for my sister instead. I'll just have to find a man to do more than stoke my fire on my own time. I shake the detergent container to dissolve any residual soap and pour the bubbly contents over my clothes. The dial on the washer grinds as I twist it. and set the load for a wash. Movement outside the small window of the bathroom makes me look out toward the back door where my car is located. What the hell? The hatch is up and a man is unloading my things to place them on the covered stoop. He's in a pair of shorts that are stuck to his body as if he's been swimming, although the way it's raining could mean he got that soaked in seconds. Muscles flex in his arms and I take a moment to appreciate his body. Moisture makes his skin glisten, and I bite my lip as I imagine licking the hard planes of his chest. He's cut like a college boy and probably too young for me, but I fantasize about being a cougar anyway. Roar. The things I could teach you. The guy whips his head around as if he heard me. Shit. I duck quickly as my face heats up. The window is shut, and I didn't speak loudly. It must have been something else that made him turn. I stand again as I shake my head and make my way outside. The guy has gotten into the back of my car to get something and is crawling backward as I say, "Hey." He steps out of the SUV and turns to me with a plant in his hand. It might be dead because it's been living in my car for 2 weeks. I gaze into a face that definitely doesn't belong to a boy. There's something about his eyes that is mesmerizing in a way I've never felt before. I move off the porch into the rain to be closer to him as if I can't help myself, and this time I let out my growl on the inside. He's hot like a silver fox, and I notice that he just might be when his hair is dry. I shake my trance when he holds the plant up and tilts his head as if he's asking me why I still have it. I can't tell him that it's been with me no matter where I went since I left Dave, so I grin at what I think is a joke. But the man doesn't smile back. I say, "Thank you for unloading my car for me. That was very nice." I reach for the plant and he pulls it back out of reach. He nods at me before turning to walk away. I stand dumbfounded as he strolls across the lawn toward the house next door. Fine. I shrug as I watch his powerful legs flex with his movement. I should have known a man that hot would only be good for only one thing. "I'll teach you to talk in the morning, Foxy." I swear. The guy hesitates for a second when I speak, but that's crazy because this time I made sure to whisper. Wait. I recall what my sister Caroline said about her new supersensitive hearing. Oh, I slap my hand over my mouth. Hit. He's a werewolf. Chapter 2. I fiddle with the lilac-colored napkin as I experiment with a fancy fold. I'm at my desk at the Winter Valley Country Club, and I can't get the idea that my sexy new neighbor is a werewolf out of my head. I'm not sure why I'm freaked out about it. My sister just became one, and my niece changed into a werewolf over a year ago to be with her true mate. The only difference I've noticed is that they both seem to look a bit more fit than before. So it shouldn't be a problem. Perhaps it's because my neighbor is the hottest man I've ever laid eyes on, and he was the star of my sex dreams last night. My pencil taps on a seating chart for the Miller wedding as I replay a fantasy with a man I'm calling Foxy. My cell phone rings and jars me from my thoughts. It's my sister Caroline. Hey. I spin in my twisting office chair to gaze out the window at the golf course. Hi, says Caroline. Did the move go smoothly? My view is of the first hole on the golf course, and I watch a group of men wearing jacquard pants in bright colors. I wonder if they make a female version and if you have to be a golfer to wear them. I say, other than the fact that it was pouring and I dropped my clothes in a mud puddle. Yeah, the place is really cute. I have a great view of the lake, and this morning I sat on my deck to drink my coffee. That sounds glorious, says Caroline. But the clothes, that had to have been a mess. It was. I flashed to Foxy's naked back rippling with muscles as he unloaded my car. So what's up? I thought I'd bring you something to cook for dinner in your new place, says Caroline. I'd love that. But do you think you can spare the time? Aren't you in horndog phase? Caroline chuckles and says, mating season. And yes, I'm in full-on give it to me I might die mode. How does curried shrimp sound? Even a nymphomaniac needs a break sometimes. Besides, Paul has a meeting tonight. I like how you snuck that in there. It sounds like the meal I ate for dinner 5 times last week. Caroline has to make a potluck item for some introduction dinner her mate, Paul, is giving for her, and there's fierce competition to be the best. I ask, don't you know how to cook anything else? I really have to get this right, sophomore. I'm going to add a bit more curry this time. Please say yes. I don't think Paul can stomach another bite. Yes, I say. You're lucky I love you. I'll bring wine. You do that, and all is forgiven. Great, says Caroline. I'll be over at 6. See you then. I click off my phone and the faintest tap sounds as a golfer strikes his ball hard. The glass of my window is thick and must be reinforced to withstand strong impact because the sound of the smack is so quiet that I wouldn't have heard it if I wasn't watching. It makes me think about how yesterday my neighbor could hear me across the lawn even when I whispered. Wonder if Caroline knows him yet. Paul is the alpha of the pack, so I'm sure he does. I really should find out if werewolves can be dangerous. I smile as I think about how I'd better learn to curtail my habit of talking to myself. Although Foxy could be fun to taunt, he's smoking hot. I wonder what he would think about the sounds I make when I use my vibrator. Wow. Must need to get laid because even my fantasies are going a bit too far. Turn back around to work on my seating chart before the Miller bride and her mother arrive. After a day of wedding details, I'm happy to get home to my house on the lake. The sun is shining, and the temperature is warm. The idea of taking a quick swim before Caroline arrives is inviting, and I change into my bathing suit. My feet pound over the wood dock as I walk to the end. I recall how when Caroline and I were children she would sit to dip her toes in and test the water first while I would usually dive without thinking. Not much has changed. When I hit the water I go down deep, and the icy chill sucks the air from my lungs. I race to the top and sputter as I gasp to breathe. What kind of lake? Is this cold in June? I swim quickly to warm up. I notice that the temperature on the surface is tolerable, and by the time I return to the dock, I'm comfortable again. I climb out and moisture drips on the wood as I reach for my towel. A tiny shiver races down my spine as if someone's watching me. I glance over at my neighbor's house, but nobody is on his back deck. Although if he were watching from behind a window, I wouldn't be able to see him. I shake off the eerie feeling when I hear a car approach, and I glance at the road I share with Foxy to see Caroline coming. I make my way into the house to greet my sister and open the door just as she's slamming hers. Come on in, I say. Caroline says, oh my God. I bet the water was freezing. I grab some grocery bags from my sister, and they rustle as we set them on the counter with a thump. It was. I forgot how far north I am. And you dove right in, didn't you? Asks Caroline. I chuckle as I nod and then say, I'll go change and be right down. When I return from my bedroom, Caroline has a glass of wine ready for me. Condensation has formed on it, and it's damp in my hand when I grab it to take a sip. She says, let's go enjoy your deck. Even better, I say. Let's take chairs down to the dock. Water laps at the wooden structure as we make our way to the end, and Caroline asks, have you met any neighbors yet? Just the guy next door. He helped me unload my car yesterday. Warren. Is that his name? I grin. I've been calling him Foxy. Caroline snorts and I think wine comes out of her nose. Oh my God, has he heard you say that? I shrug. Probably. You know how I talk to myself and I think he's a werewolf. He is. She chuckles before she adds, I bet it bothered him. I can't imagine. A wolf likes to be compared to a smaller animal like that. I frown at her. Seriously? Do you care? Well, no, but I've only been a werewolf for a couple of weeks. I'm not quite as in touch with my animal side as the rest of the pack. I still think of myself as human. It doesn't matter. The guy's strange. I take a drink from my glass and let the tart flavor of the wine sit on my tongue for a moment. Why do you say that? He didn't speak, Caro, and he walked off with my dead plant. I shake my head. Such an odd man, even if he is super hot. Huh. Well, when you come to dinner tomorrow night, I'll make him talk to you. He's Paul's best friend. I sigh. You didn't. Yes, says Caroline. I did. I tilt my head back and groan. When my sister invited me to have dinner at Paul's house, I didn't expect it was a setup. I say. He didn't even smile. This Warren guy definitely decided he doesn't like me. Oh, come on. 5 minutes with you and whatever bad first impression he got will be gone. I recall how Warren heard me growl when I was watching him out the window. Start to chuckle, and as my words roll around in my head, the situation gets more ridiculous, which makes me laugh harder. What's so funny? Asks Caroline. I control myself and answer. He came over when I was inside and I watched him out the bathroom window for a while. My sister frowns at me and I say, he didn't have much on, and I was appreciating the view. Caroline rolls her eyes as I add, but wait until you hear what I said. I repeat the words. Roar. The things I could teach you. Now Caroline laughs and I join her. When we recover I say, some first. Impression. Caroline swallows a mouthful of wine before she speaks. It is mating season. She waggles her eyebrows at me. Tomorrow night should be interesting. Promise. Me you'll give him a chance. Mating season. I wonder if maybe my sister's need for sex is rubbing off on me because I like the idea of being with Warren sexually. A lot. Even if he doesn't talk. Heat rises to my cheeks when I remember what else I said that he must have overheard. I'll teach you to talk in the morning, Foxy. Yeah, tomorrow night should be interesting indeed. I smile. Sure. I'll keep an open mind. Chapter 3. My sister moved in with Paul about a week after she became a werewolf, and her presence is already apparent as I walk through their house. I came right after work and Paul and Warren aren't here yet. I recognize some of the paintings that used to hang in Caroline's trailer on the walls, and I stop before one of my favorites. It's a watercolor of the ocean, and the simplicity of it always mesmerizes me. The aroma of garlic is in the air, and I'm grateful there isn't a hint of curry to go with it. Caroline calls out from the kitchen, "Your wine is ready." I enter into a space done in black and white. It's not my sister's style, and I wonder how long it will take before she's brightened it up with color. She hands me a glass, and I sip the burgundy contents. The flavor has a hint of dark cherry that makes me sigh. Delicious. I know. Paul has expensive taste in wines. She grins at me. I could have done worse. I think about the evening before me, and my stomach flutters a bit with nerves, or maybe it's sexual tension. I ask, "What do you know about Warren?" Prep me. He's quiet, kind, and cares very much about the pack. He's Paul's right hand man and likes dessert. A wooden spoon scrapes as she stirs a sauce. He's also never been married because he was waiting for his true mate. But the pack really needs children, and Paul's encouraging him to find a suitable mate. Wait, you're trying to set me up to have werewolves for your pack? She grins. Only if you two click. She tilts her wine glass at me. Or I might be hooking you up with great sex. Oh, okay, that's much better. I frown as I sip my drink because it's still a setup. I squirm at the thought of giving birth to wolf cubs. Will you give birth to little werewolves? I ask. No, the children are just like humans until puberty. That gives a new twist to the teenage years. While I do want a family, I'm not so sure I want to go down my sister's path. But I'm beginning to realize, if I'm looking for a partner in this town, it's likely he'll be a werewolf. Perhaps Winter Valley isn't where I want to settle down after all. Wedding season does end in the fall. I ask, hey, how do werewolves feel about a summer fling? Do they do that sort of thing? Caroline shrugs. I'm not sure. Her spoon clatters on the countertop and she touches my arm. The heat she transmits is almost uncomfortable as she says, Soph, I'm not going to push you toward this. I'm sorry I didn't think to ask. Before setting you up with Warren, I guess I want you to be as happy as I am. The thing is, I do know she means well, so I say, it's fine. I can handle one. Dinner. Caroline holds up her hand as if she's trying to stop me so she can apologize more, but I continue on to set her at ease. Besides, at least the view will be nice. Do you think we could finagle a way to get him out of his shirt? Now my sister's eyes are wide, and I hear the back door open. Fabulous. But par for the course for me, it seems. I really have to learn to keep my mouth shut. I lift my wine glass and take a swig as Paul and Warren enter the kitchen. Paul's wink at me leaves no doubt Warren heard what I said, and I sigh as I hold out my hand. Hi, Warren. I'm Sophie, Caroline's sister. His heat is a jolt of pleasure that races through me, and I pause for a second at the shock. Before I add, I hope you can manage the next few hours with me. I'll try to keep my every thought from tumbling out of my mouth. Warren scowls as he traps my fingers with both of his hands. His nostrils flare when he inhales deeply, and his eyes fall shut for a second. The man actually sways a little before he shoves my hands back at me like an unwanted gift and steps back. He glances at Paul, and the muscles in Warren's jaw flex, before he turns and rushes back toward the car. What the hell? I turn to my sister and ask, See what I mean, Caro? I freak him out. I think he just had a mushroom trip flashback. Paul grabs the bottle of wine from the counter, and my sister says, "That was very weird, Paul." Liquid gurgles as he tops off my glass. "It will be fine," Paul says as he gazes at me with an intensity that makes me understand how alphas exert mind control. "You're his true mate." My jaw drops and Caroline asks, "What?" "He just ran off to shift because she's his true mate." She looks at me in confusion. "He is an odd man." "I'm so sorry, Sophie." I hold up my hand as I swallow more of my drink and then say, "Mushrooms were never a good thing. People take their clothes off and run around naked and—" "Oh wait." I grin at my sister so she'll laugh instead of let this upset her. "That was me." Caroline shakes her head at me and I say, "Seriously, no worries. I have that effect on guys." Chuckle. Caroline grabs the wine from Paul and tops her glass off too as she says to him, "You're going to need to get us another bottle or two." She grabs my arm and leads me over to the couch. "Stop being so self-deprecating, Soph," she says. "This is actually great news." The couch whooshes around us as we sit. "Yeah, right." A kitchen cabinet clicks shut, and Paul says, "It is." "From what I understand," says Caroline, "you two are destined to be together forever. If you decide to bond with Warren, you'll be really happy." Paul sits across from us and leans forward in his chair to rest his elbows on his knees. He swirls burgundy liquid in his glass. "You have to understand that Warren is very protective of our pack, and recent events have made him cautious around human females. So basically me being his true mate is Warren's worst nightmare?" I ask. "I do like it when men dream about me." I chuckle because if I don't make a joke about this, I might be the next one to tear off my clothes and run away. Paul says, "I know it doesn't seem like it now, but this is a good thing. Can't think of a better partner for my beta." I remain silent because I can't think of a snappy comeback, and I ponder how a man that can't stand the sight of me could possibly be my true mate. Caroline grabs my hand. "You know I'd love to welcome you to the pack with open arms, but this is your decision to make. Nobody gets to tell you what to do about this." "Okay." I nod and stand to go out to the deck. I need some air. My feet tap lightly over the floor and seem to beat along with my pounding heart. A breeze is cool on my neck as I gaze out at the lake. I recall how I jumped in yesterday only to discover it was cold as ice. I'm a risk taker and the concept of being a werewolf's true mate should be exciting to me. It might be if the man I'm destined to be with wasn't so horrified by our fate. I sip my wine and let it burn slowly down my throat as I recall my previous failed marriage. While at the time I didn't see Dave didn't love me the way I did him, the signs were there. This time I'm not going to be so blind. Perhaps I'm jaded, but being with another man that doesn't really want me isn't something I'm prepared to do just so I don't end up alone. A throat clears behind me, and I turn to discover Warren. He's in a pair of jeans without a shirt. I say, "Hey, E." I let a small smile form as I say, "You do speak." Warren nods and then he smiles too as he adds, "Yes, I speak." So, I force myself not to scan his body with my eyes, and keep my mouth shut, to give him a chance to tell me what he's thinking. "I'm sorry I ran off like that. It's not you." Like hell it isn't. I'm immune to men's lies now and nod as I wait for more to spill. He says, "We're true mates. Do you know what that means?" I nod again. Warren rakes his hand through his salt and pepper hair, and the gray shimmers in the sunlight. It's kind of unnerving when someone doesn't talk. He lets out a dry laugh. "Look, we got off on the wrong foot. Can we start over?" "No, we can't. I'm sure you're a great guy, but this isn't going to work for me." I glance out at the lake and remember how the surface was warm yesterday, and know if I had lowered myself into the water slowly instead of diving, I wouldn't have been so shocked. I turn back to Warren. "I'm going to go. Thanks for the help the other day." The sliding screen door to get inside swishes as I open it and I say to Caroline, "Thanks for inviting me over, but I'm going to call it an early night." I glance at Paul. "Thank you. You have a lovely home." He says, "Anytime." I turn to my sister, and her brows are knit in compassion as I say, "I'll call you." She tugs me into an embrace. "We'll talk." I give her a smile before I leave. When I get out the door that leads to my car, Warren is tucking in his shirt, and I notice the other items of clothing. He'd stripped off to shift. He glances at me and I get the distinct impression he's upset about this. I divert my gaze quickly, and neither of us say a word as I pass by. You'll be fine, Foxy. It was over before it. Chapter 4. When I get home from Caroline's, I heat up leftovers and help myself to more wine. Even though a relationship with Warren never started, I'm experiencing a sense of loss anyway. I suppose it's more my desire to find someone who'll love me as much as I love them, so I let myself wallow in self-pity for the evening and vow to shake it off by tomorrow. Unfortunately, my dreams don't let me, and I wake too early feeling tired and cranky that the sexy werewolf next door dominated my thoughts in my sleep as well. While sex dreams are always welcome, the disturbing ones where Warren was in situations I couldn't save him from were not. One was so real that I have half a mind to go next door and make sure he's okay. I let out a big yawn and stretch my arms over my head as I make my way downstairs. I don't have to go into work until 10, which means I have a few hours before I have to do anything. I tug my tight camisole down over my stomach, and the tile floor is cool under my feet as I reach for ground coffee. I have the Miller wedding later today, and it's going to last well into the evening, so I pull out the dark roast. I focus on my mental checklist of things to do for the reception as my strong brew trickles into the pot. I glance out at the water. It's going to be a beautiful day for a wedding, and I imagine the bride is pleased. She's a sweet girl, and I'm happy I get to witness her special day. When my coffee is ready, I grab a large mug of it and wander out to my deck. The wood rail is rough against my arms as I lean on it, staring off into the distance at nothing in particular. I contemplate a cold swim to wake me up. Footsteps on the stairs make me turn my gaze to discover Warren coming toward me with a plate of muffins. Good morning, he says. He's in a loose t-shirt and shorts, and the combination of his good looks and the aroma of warm muffins makes me smile before I remember I shouldn't encourage him. I turn my body fully to face Warren and realize my mistake when he inhales sharply. My top is more than tight. It's sheer enough to offer him a clear picture of my ample breasts. I wince as I slap my arm over my chest and scurry to the door. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I call out as I jog toward my bedroom to retrieve a robe. When I get back down, I notice Warren hasn't moved and he smiles at me. You didn't have to put that on for me. The view was nice. I don't suppose I could finagle a way for you to take off that robe. My cheeks heat up as I chuckle at him using the same words I did at Caroline's last night. I say, I deserve that. My face isn't the only thing that's flushed as desire begins to burn in me. Warren takes a step in my direction, and he holds out the plate of baked goods. I thought you might want some. I peek at them without moving. I'm afraid to get too close considering my reaction the last time we touched and the way my pulse has quickened in his vicinity. They look delicious. Are they carrot? Yes, and they have coconut, raisins, and nuts too. Warren moves a little closer as if we're playing an adult game of red light, green light. I gaze at him and notice his eyes are the blue of a summer sky. I move on to his mouth and have a sudden desire to find out if he's a good kisser. I know I told him I didn't want a relationship last night, but maybe I was too rash because my body is screaming. Yes. There's a small table set between the two Adirondack chairs on the deck, and I tug my robe around myself a little tighter as I say, have a seat and I'll get you some coffee. How do you like it? Black, please. When I get to the kitchen, my hand trembles, and the coffee pot clatters as I remove it. Don't fall. I remember to keep my words to myself. For this, Sophie, I think Warren is trying to make up for yesterday, and I'll let him, because he is my next-door neighbor for the summer. But friends is as far as I want to go. Two plates clash as I grab them to carry along with our hot drinks and go outside. Warren has turned our chairs to face the lake, and I hand him his mug. Before I set the dishes down, I ask, do you live here year-round? He ignores my question and stares at me for a moment as I get settled in my seat. I grab a muffin as I wait for him to speak. He says, the Silver Lake wolves are in danger from humans and have been for over a century. I frown because this is news to me, though Caroline and my niece Trixie did tell me that their existence was not something I could share. His gaze is intense, and I flash to the way Paul looked at me last night when he told me this man was my true mate. Warren says, I don't trust humans. I pluck a raisin from the top of my muffin as I consider his admission. Reply, I don't trust men. I place the dried fruit on my tongue and lick my finger as he watches. His nostrils flare as he inhales deeply. Warren breaks his gaze to lift a muffin and tear off the top before he looks at me again. We're true mates, he says. He already told me this last night. So I guess he might be explaining why he's attracted to someone he doesn't like. I think a low growl comes from him, but it's so faint I'm not sure. He takes a big bite and I watch his teeth sink slowly. My neck throbs with my erratic pulse as if it's inviting him to move on to me next. I break my baked good apart and lift a big chunk toward my mouth as I explain my attraction away too. I know. I tear a piece off with my teeth and contain my moan of pleasure at the sugary flavor when it hits my tongue. Warren's gaze has me trapped and I wonder if we're staring each other down to see who'll cave first. I chew slowly as my chest heaves with my inability to catch my breath properly. Every inch of my being is humming with need for the man who is close enough to touch. He licks his lips and swallows down his mouthful of food. Mimic the action. We both set the rest of our muffin down and I gasp when he grabs my hand. My eyelids flutter in response to the jolt of electricity that passes through me from his touch, and I lean toward the man I want to devour. Now I'm sure. Warren growls as he threads his fingers through my hair and pulls me into a kiss. This is not a simple kiss, and we're both equal participants as our mouths nip and our tongues tangle. I taste more than coffee and sugar. Warren's flavor is one I'm sure is addictive, and I grab his shoulders to steady myself. Hard muscle flexes under my fingers as I hold on for dear life. The kiss stops as abruptly as it started, and Warren's chair scrapes on wood as he stands. He's panting and a warm glow flashes through his eyes as he stares down at me. The glow must be something powerful because it reaches out to me, and I'm drawn to my sexy neighbor as if I have no control. I stand too and step toward Warren. Soft cotton wads up in my hands as I clutch at his shirt to keep him from leaving. He grabs my hips and presses his groin against me. His large erection is rock hard between us and he gazes at me as if he's asking permission. A tiny voice in my head is warning me to stop, but I ignore it as I let out a small whimper and reach around Warren's neck to pull him down for another kiss. His hands roam my body, and my robe falls to my feet with a soft thump. When he slides it off my shoulders, he grabs my butt and breasts as if he needs to touch all of me as soon as he can. I'm just as desperate and try to memorize every dip and line of his fit body. I'm drowning in this man, and right now I never want to stop. Chapter 6. When I return to my bedroom, Warren is gone. My knee-jerk reaction is disappointment, but I quickly replace it with a sigh of relief as I tug at the sheets to remove them. At least he's not trying to pretend this is more. Warren doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that plays games, and I appreciate. Maybe we're on the same page and can make this work after all. I wad up the dirty linens, and residual warmth from our bodies is infused with the odor of our musk. It's enticing, and I find myself inhaling it longer than I should before I toss the heap toward the stairs to grab when I'm ready. I put on a simple shift dress that I'll glam up later for the wedding with a beaded blazer. My chunky heels that allow me to wear them for hours without pain thud on the steps as I make my way to the kitchen with the sheets in my arms. I breathe through my mouth to avoid the scent, but it doesn't work. Shame at my lack of self-control manages to take over by the time I get to the living room and my ears burn. I notice Warren brought the coffee and muffins inside to set them on the breakfast bar that separates my kitchen from the living room. I've still got an hour before I need to be at the country club, so I dig my phone out of my purse and call my sister. Is Paul at work? I ask. Yes, says Caroline. Want to talk? I snap a plastic bag open and drop 2 muffins into it. I'll be right over. 10 minutes later, I enter Caroline and Paul's house without knocking. My sister is at their kitchen table, and the bag of baked goods I toss thumps. When it lands in front of her, I say, compliments of Warren. I slept with him. Caroline gazes up at me with a frown. And he made you muffins as a thank you. No, those were to seduce me. I snort. Like I needed convincing. My sister gets up, and the cabinet clicks open as she gets me a mug. Coffee splashes into it as Caroline pours. She says, start at the beginning. My bottom thuds into a chair as I plop myself down. He came over this morning to tell me he doesn't trust humans. So I told him I didn't trust men. And then we screwed each other's brains out. Hate sex. I shrugged because I don't hate Warren. Far from it. I couldn't help myself. Caro, it was like some strange force made me do it. I wonder if I'd still be attracted to Warren if we were both human. That force doesn't go away. You can't help it. Mating season and the true mate attraction made you do it. She picks up the plastic bag and pulls out a muffin. Caroline twists it in her hand as she inspects it as she says, "Trust me. I know how it feels." My chuckle is reluctant, because she's told me how insatiable she's been since Paul bit her. She asks, "Was it the best you've ever had?" I take a deep breath and let it out slowly. Above and beyond the best. Caroline smiles at me. "You want more?" "Yes." I grab the plastic bag as I say, "No." I pull out the muffin and take a big bite off the top as my sister speaks over the food in her mouth. "Oh my God, this is amazing." I nod as I chew and let the delicious flavor distract me for a moment. She swallows and says, "You're his true mate, which means you can't help the way you feel. Sophomore fate has made you want him even if you'd rather not." I close my eyes and huff. "Wonderful." Caro says, "I'm glad you hooked up with him. Everyone should get that kind of sex." She takes another bite. "You should do it again." "Really?" I ask. "You don't see a problem with this?" Caroline shakes her head as she chews. "Okay, how about the fact that we don't trust each other? And how about the part where he doesn't even like me?" Tears prick at my eyes as I recall how painful my divorce from Dave was. I blink them back as I say, "I can't do that again." My sister's hand is warm on my arm as she touches me. "He likes you, Soph. Hell, he loves you." "No. It was just sex." "He said so." "That's not how true mates work." She peels paper off the bottom of her muffin. As she says, "Even if Warren won't admit it, he's head over heels in love with you." Caroline places her arms on the table to lean toward me. "So it's not about what he wants anymore. It's all about you, Sophie. What do you want?" "What do I want?" I lean back in my chair and replay the face of a recent groom that saw nothing but his bride as she walked down the aisle toward him. I want someone to look at me like that. I want someone who adores me, not someone who can't help but love me because of fate. Compassion clouds my sister's face. "You should have it. Give Warren a chance to show you how he feels. I think he's struggling with your humanity." I recall that he said that humans put the wolves in peril, and I say, "He told me that the wolves are in danger." Caroline says, "We're safe now, but a while back the government suspected werewolves live here and tried to capture some for research." A TV show version of alien testing flashes in my mind, and I picture my sister strapped to a table with wires attached to her body. "Oh my God, Caro. That's scary." "Yeah. So you can understand why Warren might not be too keen on humans." "But wouldn't his mother have been a human?" "She was," says Caro. "But I don't know much about her. She's no longer around." I lift my coffee to take a sip. I imagine loving my enemy. I glance at the clock on the stove to discover I have to leave, and I stand. I've got to get to work. "Thanks for the coffee." Caroline has the muffin paper in her hand and is picking at the tiny bits stuck to it. "Thanks for breakfast. This was really good." "Sure." A tiny shudder races through me as I recall my morning activities. My body neglects to remember my mind's confusion and lusts for more of Warren. Glance out over the lake and notice someone paddle boarding, and I let the memory of how chilly my swim was a couple days ago shake off the heat of my desire. A few more warm days and the water will be pleasant for swimming. 2. Bad Warren's hatred for what I am couldn't fade that quick. Chapter 7. Outdoor receptions at the country club are beautiful. The event tent is adorned with hundreds of tiny lights that sparkle, and the expanse of the green golf course in the distance is like a lush carpet. I take in white chairs and linens topped with lilac-colored napkins and iris centerpieces. A hand truck rattles as it goes by me, announcing that the band has arrived. Search for my contact in the group as my phone rings. I glance at the screen and my heart jumps into my throat. It's my ex-husband, Dave. We haven't spoken in almost a year, and I take a deep breath to gather my wits before I answer. Dave says, "Sophie, it's so good to hear your voice." I hate myself because the sound of his voice feels good to me too. I focus on staying strong against his charms. "Hey, I've only got a minute. I'm working. What is it? I want to see you again. He chortles for a moment and then says, it's more. Then what? I need to. Why? Are you pregnant with my child? Dave laughs again. You still crack me up, Sophie girl. His nickname for me is Bittersweet. When things were good with us, that's what he called me. But when he stopped saying it, I should have seen it was the beginning of our end. That's me. A laugh a minute. But seriously, you've got 30 seconds before I have to go. I tracked you down, and I know you're the wedding planner at the Winter Valley Country Club. I'm in the area and would like to meet you for a drink. Tonight. I can't. I have a reception, and it will be late before I'm done. Then I'll come to you. Surely once the dancing starts and the guests get too drunk to care, you can give me a few minutes of your time. Dave is in sales, and I know any attempt at dissuading him is futile. What is this about? It's not something I want to do over the phone. Don't worry, it's nothing bad. In fact, it could be really good. I sigh in annoyance because I don't have time to deal with the emotions that are swimming to the surface over seeing my ex again. Fine, I say. How about sometime around 9? I'll be there. I can't wait to see you, Sophie. Damn it if he doesn't sound genuinely excited about it. Sure. Bye. My phone clicks and I close my eyes to process what just happened. My insecurities rush in and I wonder if my hair looks good or if he'll think my outfit is attractive. Sophie, don't. I snap my eyes open and make a beeline for the band. I've got too much to do to make sure this wedding is everything the bride dreamed of. She still has hopes it's forever. A few hours later, I stand apart from the reception to admire my handiwork. Even though I've only got a few receptions under my belt, I think I've done an amazing job. I gaze out at the wedding guests to find happy faces and I hone in on the bride and groom. Their heads are together and I imagine the sweet words that are being exchanged. Warren's face comes to mind before I push it away. My fantasy needs to be about someone that adores me. I sigh as I replace him with a generic man and I say, maybe someday. I'm startled when the weight of a hand lands on my shoulder, and I turn to Dave as he says, Sophie. His brown eyes glisten with the reflection of the tent lights, and I glance at the mouth I used to love to kiss. Hi. Dave scans my body with his eyes, and he gives me the smirk I recognize as the I want in your pants grin. You look luscious. He's in dress slacks and an Oxford shirt. He's handsome in a way I used to find sexy before the vision of a soaking wet Warren in just shorts replaced it. In my mind. Thank you. He says, you did a nice job. I turn to scan the crowd with him. I think so. I don't look at him as I ask. So what did you need to see me about? Dave touches my elbow and I gaze up at him. He reaches for a lock of my hair and twists it in his finger. God, you're still so beautiful. My hackles go up as I wonder if this is a booty call and he says, I've missed you. I sigh when he places his hand on my cheek. I lean into his palm as the familiar feelings of love for him come back. But I'm not that stupid, so I step back. Spit it out, Dave. I have things to check on. I made a huge mistake divorcing you, Sophie girl. I take one more step back. Oh no you don't. No way do you get to say this to me. I know. After everything I did, I don't have the right. I see regret in his eyes as he says, but I need you to know I still love you. I've spent 2 years trying to forget you and I can't. I shake my head. I want to believe him, but the pain of our breakup is not easily forgotten. No, you never loved me the way I needed you to, and I don't believe you do now. He steps toward me and grabs my hands. His touch is cool on my fingers and Warren's searing heat comes to mind as Dave says, but I do, Sophie. I was too afraid to admit it before. Now he gives me the pleading puppy dog eyes that used to make me cave to his requests. I was afraid to be so vulnerable, but I'm not any longer. I tug my hands away. Say I believe you, which I don't. What is it you expect me to do? I want you to give me a chance to make things up to you. Go out with me. Sophie girl. My emotions are cycling through anger, sadness, and hope, but my head is telling me anything to do with Dave is a bad idea. I ask, go out with you? Sigh. No. Dave reaches out his hand to me. Touch me again. I know you felt our connection. I snort. I think about the way Warren's touch ignites a fire in me. Dave has no idea what a real connection feels like. No, Dave. I didn't. He reaches into his pocket as he says, though you might not believe me. He pulls out a small velvet box and holds it out. Here. See how serious I am. The container is soft in my fingers as I open it. Inside is my old engagement ring. The diamond in the middle is now between 2 trillion sapphires. This isn't just a booty call. Dave has given our reconciliation some thought. Wow. I snap it shut and hold it out to him. I don't want this. Dave takes my hand and wraps my fingers around the box. Take it. I'm not asking you to wear the ring. I want you to keep it as my promise. Promise to love you more than you need me to, Sophie. I gaze at him and his eyes are glassy with moisture. I want to make him the bad guy and walk away, but I can't. Damn him. I believe he still loves me. And a surge of emotions makes me tear up too. Dave slides his hands up my arms and grips firmly. One step at a time. All you have to do right now is say yes to a date with me. I'm so weak. The man I loved for years but never really had finally wants me. The same way. How can I not try? I say. I will on 2 conditions. Anything. The box is hard in my hand as I hold it out again. Take this back. I swipe a. Tear off my face and sniff. It's too much. Dave shoves the ring in his pocket and tugs me against his chest in a hug. He kisses the top of my head and pulls away to look at me. I think about what Warren and I did this morning. If I date Dave, it won't happen again, but my ego needs me to fib about it. I say, I'm kind of seeing someone and I'm not going to break things off until after I make up my mind about us. Sure. He nods. That's fine. Dave breaks into a grin. So when are you free? His happiness makes me smile too, and I say, tomorrow's my day off. Give me your address and I'll be by at 6 to take you out to the best restaurant I can find. Okay. I step backward. I really do need to get back to work. As I start to walk off, Dave calls out, you won't regret this, Sophie girl. I'll make sure of it. I wish I believed I won't regret it, but the way my stomach churns makes me think I might. Chapter 8. The Miller wedding was a success, and I got home just before midnight. I was so exhausted that I slept soundly for most of the night and roll out of bed. Around 7, I decide I'm going to spend my day off basking in the summer sun, with a good book to avoid the turmoil my love life has become. I find a lounge chair in the shed and go about the business of setting myself up on the dock. The tropical scent of my sunscreen is strong as I squirt some out of the tube, and my skin is already warm when I slather it on. It's going to be hot today, and I'm happy I get to cool off in the lake when necessary. I glance over at Warren's house. I think about how Warren said he can't help but love me, and that the true mate bond means I can't help myself either. It's a sure thing. Too bad it isn't something either of us wants. And why? Couldn't it be Dave that can't help loving me? Damn it. Why did I say yes? It would be so easy for Dave to break his promise to love me because he can. I find I'm staring at Warren's house again and I sigh. I'm not sure having someone who's forced to love me is any better, but I'm tired of worrying about my love life. I'm going to make the best of my day off instead. When I start to read, it doesn't take me long to get engrossed in my book, and I block out the sounds of people enjoying the water at houses near me. Sweat trickles down my chest, and I'm about to take a break to swim when a soft thud makes the dock shake. I look up to discover Warren has pulled up in a canoe. His board shorts and loose tee aren't enough of a barrier for my hormones, and they kick into high gear at the sound of his voice as he says, I've got something to show you. His smile is inviting, and my heart flips at his attention. This guy loves me. I notice he has a cooler and 2 towels in the boat with him. I set my book down and sit up as I point toward the contents of the canoe. Is there food in that lunch? He waggles his eyebrows at me. With cookies. I'm not used to the charming version of my neighbor and am intrigued. I tell myself free lunch is a good thing, and that's why I get up and climb gingerly into the canoe to keep it from tipping. Once I'm seated, I glance around for a paddle. Warren says, there isn't one for you. I reposition myself to face him as my heart beats faster at the chivalrous gesture. Good Lord, Sophie, you're so easy. I ask, where are we going? The Native Americans were the first to settle in Winter Valley. He ignored my question, but I'm beginning to understand it's his way, and I listen. Without interrupting, water rushes as he paddles smoothly, and he says, they were happy until the white man came. I watch the muscles in his arms ripple as he moves to stroke on the other side of the boat. They brought famine with them, and the area was wiped clean of people for almost a decade. Sweat is beaded on Warren's face and dampens his shirt. He says, "But that's not what really happened." "No," I ask. "The chief of the tribe was so angry over the white man's invasion, he ordered his medicine woman to merge his people with the wolves." Warren stops paddling, and the oar clunks on the boat as he sets it down to rest on the edges. We drift with momentum. She created the Silver Lake werewolves. We're here because of what evil humans do. I gaze at the man before me and try to picture him as a wolf. I look at his strong hands and his voice is soft when he asks, "Are you afraid of me?" I shake my head. When Caroline and my niece Trixie told me about the werewolves, I didn't have much of a chance to fear them before I learned that Trixie was one. Should I be? No. We have more to fear from humans than they do from us. I ask, "Are you afraid of me?" He nods and plucks at his shirt to pull it off his skin. I shiver. I'm afraid of being with someone who's forced to love me. I shake off my mood and smile as I brace my arms on the edge of the canoe to lean back. I reach toward the water as if I'm going to splash him and say, "I can finagle a way to get you out of that shirt." Warren removes his tee, and I sigh when he reveals the chest I tried to memorize by touch. I like the view. Feel better. He flexes his chest as he grins, and I chuckle before I say, "You're such a guy." Warren picks up the paddle, and the water splashes faintly as he dips the oar in to propel us forward again. As he strokes, I remember the feel of his powerful arms around me, and my mind goes back to our sexual escapades. Desire pools low in my belly. Warren's nostrils flare, and he groans before he says, "You do like the view, don't you?" It occurs to me that he's sniffing me when he does that, and I squeeze my thighs as if I can shut off my scent. "Oh my God, you can smell my arousal?" "Yes." He glances down at his crotch. It's powerful stuff. Suddenly his motives for the canoe ride are clear. "You're taking me somewhere. For sex, aren't you?" "I'm taking you on a picnic." Great. He's probably just bringing food so I can last longer. "So now you're saying you don't want sex with me?" Warren frowns. "Yes. I mean no." He shakes his head. "You are very confusing." He stops paddling and leans forward. His musk floats toward me, and I want to kiss him so badly I can't think straight. I say, "Damn it. You make it hard to be clear." I stare at him before I ask, "What are we doing?" "I'm trying to get to know you. To let you know me." I can't resist my urge to touch him any longer, and I reach out and place my hand on his chest. His heartbeat pounds under my fingers, and it calms me as if it's my touchstone. "You mean like a date?" He places his palm over my hand to press it harder against his chest. "I'm in love with you, Sophie. I'll do anything to make this work between us." "You said you don't trust me, so tell me what to do." I pull my hand away. "Does this mean you've decided to trust me?" He nods, and I ask, "What happened to your mother?" He scowls for a second. "She was shot by a human." My heart hurts for him, and I reach out to touch his arm. Even though it was a long time ago, I still miss her. Something I imagine is his wolf flashes in his eyes. Humans are dangerous. But she was human once, wasn't she? Yes. His eyes are normal again, even though he frowns. Warren picks up the paddle again, and I dip my fingers in the lake and notice the water is warm. I splash him as I waggle my eyebrows at him. "I have some other questions." He grins and says, "Yes, werewolves are better lovers." His joke surprises me, and I chuckle. "You're flirting with me. Don't get jealous, but I know how. I've done this before." Amazingly, the idea of Warren with someone else does give me a surge of envy. And I say, "Let's not go there. I'm willing to wipe the slate clean on sexual history." "Good idea." Warren's gaze makes me think he's not prepared to answer everything when he asks, "So what else do you want to know?" Sophie and Trixie have already answered most of the questions about the mechanics of being a werewolf, so I say, "Tell me about the dangers now." "We're safe for now, but you need to know there is always a threat of exposure." Warren stops moving, and his gaze doesn't waver as he says, "I'll always be honest with you, Sophie. I won't keep things from you even if they aren't good. You deserve that." Tree branches overhead make me notice we're about to reach land, and I turn to face forward as Warren brings us ashore on a small beach. Sand scrapes under the canoe and I stand to step out. Earth sinks under my bare feet as I walk through shin-deep water to get to land. Warren pulls the boat up onto the beach and retrieves the towels and cooler. Since I'm wearing just a bathing suit, he says, "You're not dressed for exploring." He points off to the left. "So let's eat on that rock." I follow him to a rock ledge that hangs over the water. The canopy of trees offers shade to keep us cool, and I sit on the towel Warren sets out for us. He unpacks the cooler and hands me a bottle of water. It's ice cold in my hand and paper rustles as I open the sandwich he gave me. He asks, "Are you aware that being with me means that eventually I'll need you to become a werewolf?" Yes. I lift a piece of bread to discover he got me roast beef with mustard, and I wonder how he knew I'd like it. I also wonder why I'm talking to him as if we've decided to be a couple. Caroline explained that your pack needs human women for children. Warren swallows a mouthful of food and asks, "Do you want children?" I do. Do you? He's chewing, so he nods in answer. Once he swallows, he asks, "Do you know I need to bite you for the change to happen?" Now it's my turn to nod as I chew. And he adds, "The bite will hurt, but I'm told the pleasure it brings is worth the pain." His eyes twinkle with what I guess is a bit of amusement and male pride. I've heard. I lick mustard off my finger and gaze at Warren as he watches me. He's doing the nostril thing again, and it makes the embers of my desire flare. I don't bother to try to hide my arousal as I say, "It all comes back to sex, doesn't it?" That's not all that's fueling this, Sophie. Warren leans in to kiss me and whispers, "Our attraction is because of love too." Chapter 11. The tile countertop of Warren's kitchen is cold on my bottom as I sit dressed in one of his t-shirts and hold a carton of ice cream. The creamy flavor is so intense now with my new wolf senses that it's almost too much. I spoon some into my mate's mouth as I ask, "Is the full moon thing true?" He's sitting next to me, and I snuggle against his chest as it rumbles with his words. "Are you feeling anything that's making you anxious? Since tonight is the full moon, I expect it to be harder for you to control your shift. That's why I didn't think you should go into work." I'm dying to shift for the first time, but Warren wants me to wait until dark so we can go out and run. He says I'm going to need to move. Considering the lake has a number of humans on it, it's probably best 2 wolves aren't seen running around, so I agreed. "No," I say. My legs barely notice the impact when I hop off the counter, and I reach down to feel my newly defined quads. Whoa. I twist and bend my knee a bit as I cock my hip in a pose. Am I hot now or what? Warren shakes his head as he grins. You really want to know my answer to that question? I thought you said you were sore. I relax and frown because he's right. Yeah, I thought I had magic healing powers now. You do. Warren pretends he's looking at the watch he doesn't wear. I give you about an hour before you'll be raring to go. I waggle my eyebrows at him. Then you'd better eat up. I've got plans for you. Water rushes as I fill a glass to drink. Warren mutters, "I've created a monster." I can hear that now. I glance out the window at the orange sunset. It won't be long before it's dark and I can let my wolf out. While I wouldn't say she's uncontrollable, I am aware that she wants to play. I do too. I called Caroline and she and Trixie plan to meet me tonight as wolves. Talk about strange girls' night out. My stomach growls as I flip the water off and I say, I should probably eat protein. I'm really hungry. How does steaks on the grill sound? Like dinner, I say. I've got things for a salad next door. Warren gets down from the counter, and I slide my arms around his waist and reach up on my tiptoes to kiss him. I'll be right back. I notice his touch is no longer hot, and I miss it a little until he tugs me in tighter and gives me a kiss back that makes me forget what I was going to do. When he releases me, I hurry off before we get too distracted to eat. I step into my cottage with a new perspective. Not only do I notice dust I've never seen before, but the scents I detect make me aware of how obtuse I was as a human. No wonder Warren knew what I was thinking most of the time. I left so many clues. It occurs to me that he's known about my attraction to him since the very first time we met, and it wasn't just the words he overheard. He could smell my arousal and probably hear my heartbeat race. I smile as I open the fridge and cold blasts at my face. I think he was attracted to me too, and even though it was futile to avoid his true mate, Warren chose to ignore it until we touched at Paul and Caroline's. I imagine how things might have played out if we had made contact that first day. With an armload of vegetables, I make way across the lawn and fantasize about a soaking wet version of Warren in the laundry room. Before I get to the door, I say, I sure hope it rains soon. Do you remember the day we first met? Warren turns to me. Why do you think I didn't speak? He grabs peppers from my hands. Your scent overwhelmed me in a way I'd never felt before. I had to get away so I wouldn't ravish you on the hood of your car. Really? I dump the rest of the food on the counter with a thump, then shove it out of the way as I say, we might have to act that out. I stretch my arms out over the counter and press my chest on it to present my bare butt to him. I glance over my shoulder. Or maybe we could just practice the hood of the car thing right here. Warren growls as he strips off his shorts. I love mating season. After a bit of exercise and dinner, it's time for me to make my first shift. Warren strips in front of me as we stand behind his house. A howl sounds in the distance and the soft cotton of my shirt brushes over my skin when I remove it to hang on a hook. I ask, how many wolves will I meet tonight? Dozens. You're a big deal. How so? Warren takes my hands. The pack has waited a long time for the alpha and beta to find a mate. Paul has Caroline and now I have you. Yes, you do. I reach up and stroke his cheek and a dusting of silver stubble shines in the moonlight. He says, tonight is only the beginning of the celebration we'll have. Just wait until our next pack meeting. I think about how my sister spent weeks making curried shrimp in order to compete with the other women of the pack. I scowl because it sounds sexist to me. I've heard about the best dish thing. Do I really have to do that? Warren grins at me. I'm going to tell you a little secret. There are plenty of men that do the cooking, but their mates present the dish. We can do ours together if you want. I smile up at him. How about muffins? He chuckles and then pinches my butt, making me squeal. Enough talk, he says. It's time to shift. I take a deep breath. I'm ready. What do I do? Watch me. Warren walks in a small circle, and I mimic his movements as he says, now focus on your wolf and let her come out. I imagine the pressure of her presence growing, and I experience a sensation that feels like stretching, stinging, and joints popping all at the same time. Before I realize I'm on all fours, I gaze at my feet and find creamy white fur, tinged with black. I'm a wolf. A very beautiful one. I glance over at the massive brown wolf across from me. His blue eyes are vivid against his fur. You're incredible. Come, my mate. Let's run. I follow after Warren with the energy of a teenager. My body is supple and my limbs are powerful as we gallop. I wonder if my werewolf-infused human form might be the same, and I hope so. I may even take up jogging if it is. He leads me through sparse woods to a large clearing. Multiple wolves are there, and they form a semicircle in front of us when we arrive. 2 wolves stay near us, and I gaze at them to realize they're Paul and Caroline. My sister nuzzles me, and even though we can't speak, I know she's happy for me. The large black wolf that I'm sure is Paul lets out a howl. It's loud and powerful, and when everyone joins in, I'm filled with the warmth of belonging. I open my mouth when I notice Warren does, and we add our voices to the pack. When it's finally silent again, I communicate with my mate. That was amazing. I felt as if I'm connected to everyone in the pack. Because you are, Sophie. There isn't one member of the Silver Lake Wolves that won't have your back. I think I understand now what Trixie and Caroline were telling me when they said once I'm a werewolf I'll wonder how I could have been happy as a human. Another female wolf comes to stand near me, and when she nuzzles Caro and me, I'm sure it's my niece. I nip at her and run so she'll chase me like when she was a small child. She takes me up on the offer, and my sister joins in on the game too. When my frolicking is over, Warren finds me, and I communicate with him to say, I'm exhausted. I can't remember the last time I had so much fun. I lean against my true mate and he replies, I'm glad. Come on home with me. Now, let's end the night in each other's arms. I lick his snout. There's no place I'd rather be. As we make our way home, I realize that my hope for a man to love me as much as I love him has been more than answered. I found a family in the pack, and never again will I ever crave love I can't have. 'Cause now I have it in Chapter 12. Warren hoists the large basket out of my car, and the hatch slams shut as I stand and stare at the building before me. The Silver Lake Lodge is where the pack meets once a month for business and a potluck dinner. The cedar shingles are weathered gray with time, and a wraparound porch is scattered with a few werewolves in conversation. I suppose I should be nervous that this is my night to be presented to the pack, but I'm not. Ever since the evening I joined in on the full moon ritual gathering, I felt nothing but welcomed by the werewolves. Now that I am one, my scent is like a calling card that lets every other wolf in town know who I am. Warren was right. As the beta's mate, I am a big deal, and everyone I run into congratulates me and spends time finding out who I am. Heat rises from the asphalt as we make our way to the lodge. Warren says hello to a few of the men on the porch, and they nod to me before we go inside. Caroline must have been watching for me because she heads over to us right away and grabs Trixie as she comes. There she is, says Caro. She takes my arm and says to Warren, go do the leader thing with Paul. We've got this covered. Trixie takes the basket from my mate, and he kisses my cheek as he communicates telepathically. Call me if it gets too overwhelming. I'll be fine, thanks. My niece says, these smell delicious. Goodness, you must have 5 different flavors in here. She takes my other arm and the 3 of us head toward a large table set up with food along the back wall. I notice a doorway that must lead to a kitchen. They're nothing special, I say. I decided to let everyone else shine. Competition isn't my thing. Nonsense, says Caroline. They look scrumptious. Everyone will love them. Trixie sets the basket down as I'm so overcome with the odor of so much yummy food that my stomach growls. Katie, calls Trixie. I glance in the direction she's looking to see a dark-haired girl with a crying toddler on her hip. She hands the child to an older woman and makes her way toward us. I notice Trixie's babies with the group of ladies that I assume are the pack grandmothers. My niece says, Katie, this is my Aunt Sophie, the one that rented your parents' place. The girl holds out her hand. It's a pleasure to meet you. We've all been waiting for Warren to find the one. She diverts her attention from me to wave at someone, and 3 other women come over. I'm introduced to Devin, Raven, and Kayla. Kayla lived in my cottage at 1.2 and tells me a story about how Warren saved her. I learned through our conversation that these women used to be human too, and I realize I'm part of a special group. Talk turns to motherhood, and 2 more women named Andy and Mia join us. Discover that the girls all think they conceived this year. 5 of them, including Caroline, know for sure. I can't help but place my hand on my stomach and wonder if in the few short weeks I've been with Warren I've managed to get pregnant too. Trixie asks me, wouldn't it be amazing if the 3 Quinn women had babies at the same time? I shake my head and say to Caroline, I almost feel too old to do this. Hush. She touches my arm. I know I'm not, therefore you can't be. Got it. Raven says, you all are going to think I'm crazy, but I swear I can hear the heartbeat of your babies. She looks at me. Do you want me to listen for you? I shrug. Sure. Why not? The girl kneels in front of me and places her ear on my stomach. After a moment, Raven gazes up at me with her warm brown eyes and smiles. I heard a mariachi band in there. What? I ask. She stands. I heard at least 2, maybe 3 heartbeats. If you ask me, you're definitely pregnant. Caroline hugs me as Trixie says, do me now, Raven. If Raven really can hear heartbeats, then it ends up all of us are indeed pregnant. She listened to all the other questionable bellies to confirm it. Chuckle when we begin to plan play dates. I noticed the grandmother crew watching us. Warren told me there are very few born werewolf women, and I wonder if the ladies are walking down memory lane as they eavesdrop on our excited chatter. Warren catches my eye, and I excuse myself from the group to go to him. He slips his arm around my waist and says, you leave quite an impression. Apparently there's talk of moving our board meetings to the country club, because a certain woman does an amazing job with event planning. You're kidding. My boss Linda is a werewolf too, and I know this will please her. We'd love to have you. Warren sighs. I have no idea how I managed to be happy before I met you. Spend my days walking on cloud 9 now. He glances around as if he's revealing a big secret he doesn't want people to know. I'm told I'm not nearly as crotchety these days either. You got a bad rap. You were just economical with your words and smiles. Warren chuckles and I say, I may have some good news for you. He raises his eyebrows because my mate has mentioned numerous times how thrilled he'd be to become a father. I say, Raven thinks she can hear fetus heartbeats and claims that I'm pregnant with at least 2. He opens his mouth and I quickly place my hand over it and say, sure, let's make sure before we announce anything. I notice Paul in the distance, and he nods at me as he heads our way. He pats Warren on the shoulder and says, congratulations. Triplets, huh? I sigh as Warren grins and I say, there's no such thing as a secret in this pack, is there? We don't know for sure yet. Paul glances at my belly and says, I think we do. He taps his nose. I roll my eyes and say, let me guess. You can sniff it out. The alpha winks at me. Today I can. Great, I say. Now who can help me win the lottery? I gaze at Warren, and for a moment my heart stops as I'm trapped in his blue eyes. I shake my head. Never mind. I already have. My mate takes my face in his hands and leans down to touch his nose to mine. Me too. A woman's voice behind me says, oh my God. I don't know how that woman did it, but she's got our cranky old beta acting like a love-struck teenager. Warren lifts his head and calls out, Mary, that's because I finally found my true mate. Surely you remember how that feels. I turn to see a gray-haired woman smile with her hand flat on her chest, and she says, yes I do, dear boy. And I'm thrilled that you did too. Welcome to the pack, Sophie. Thanks. Paul says, I think it's time. He leads Warren and me to the front of the room, and my mate stands behind me. His hands are a comfortable weight on my shoulders as if I'm an extension of him. The alpha claps his hands together loudly, and everyone falls silent. Warren's voice is deep and true as he speaks. Silver Lake Pack, I'm honored to present to you Sophie Quinn, my true mate. The crowd claps for us. I grin as tears form in my eyes and I gaze out at the werewolves that have become my family. I look at the group of pregnant women. That will be part of my journey as a mother, and I know we'll raise our children as a village. I turn to see Warren, the man I love more than I could ever imagine. He's gazing down at me with so much love and I flash to the look I see on grooms' faces as their bride approaches. My mate loves me that much. Warren communicates in my head. Rent a cottage on Silver Lake, Sophie, and find yourself a man. I smile at his words that are a repeat of what I said the day I moved next door to him and I whisper, I did. Warren dips me down for a crowd-pleasing kiss, and while everyone claps and cheers for us I say, I found the perfect one.